Hi, welcome to another edition of Ask Jeff, where you get the opportunity to ask a question and we get the opportunity to respond to it in some way or another. This can be questions that are asked in person, via email, whatever you do, or however you ask it, that's fine. I mean, in the history, really, of question answering, there's been Dear Abby and Ask Ann Landers and now Ask Jeff, obviously right up there near the top. And this question comes in, and it really is a serious question, legitimate question. So I will give it a legitimate answer instead of being just flip and short and say something silly. But the question, or the gist of the question is, and I'll summarize it and rewrite the question this way. I'm taking all the names out that would embarrass anybody or definitely done to protect the innocent. The question reads this way. I have a friend who tends to be rude to people in the service industry. And when we are in public, their comments and actions, I think, are offensive, and I'm embarrassed by their behavior. Am I wrong to be bothered? And so the answer to the question is, oh yeah, of course, yeah, you should. But let me give you a better answer than that. Yes, you should be bothered, and it should bother you. And hopefully you have a good enough relationship with this person to call them on their silliness, or rudeness, basically. But let's take an example. Jesus will be our example. How can you go wrong with an answer like that, right? And so we see Jesus in the Bible on different occasions eating. And so what did he do? Well, in Matthew 15, we see Jesus feeding 4,000 and 5,000 people. And so Jesus played chef, and he asked the disciples to wait the tables, basically. While being with the apostles at the Passover, he played host, and he washed their feet, and the host became the servant in John 13. While Jesus was eating with the Pharisees, a woman with a sinful past came and anointed him with a priceless oil, and Jesus kindly allowed her to interrupt his meal and worship him in Luke chapter 7. Matter of fact, if you go back and look real carefully, Jesus was only rude to one group of people while he was eating, and that was the Pharisees, who spoiled his meal by not treating others very well. That's in Luke 7, verses 39 through 50. As a matter of fact, the same Pharisees would try to kill Jesus and ultimately would end up killing him later on. And so the question then would be, what would Jesus leave for someone in the service industry? What would Jesus leave a waiter or waitress? Well, there's a monetary value in there, and there's a percentage that people give or don't give. I always encourage followers to be generous tippers, and then also recognize that they may not know the kind of day that the person who is serving them in that role is having. And so you've got to look at things differently. But Jesus probably would encourage, best he could, with the struggles of their job. He would forgive anything that wasn't quite right, like a mismatched order or a dirty spoon, something like that. He would offer to them encouragement that would last for an eternity. In other words, something that he would say that would draw others toward him, which is a big deal. And then thanks, which again, we communicate through gratuity or something like that. I think that sometimes we get this upside down idea that when someone is serving us, then maybe our job as followers is just to tip at a certain percentage because that's the way it ought to be. Or is it this? And so reroute your thinking just a little bit. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, you're called to be a servant. And so even when someone is serving you, the question that you might ask as a recipient of that service is, how can I best serve you back? We tend to deal with people who are helping us in that service-based industry as something that we're entitled to. We all like good service. Sure, we do. And hopefully we tip accordingly and things like that. But at the same time, there is that call that we have as people to always be looking, how can we serve others? And I dare say one of the places that we don't do it very well are in those positions that we're placed in when someone is serving us. Don't know if that helps, don't know if it hurts, but do you have every right to be upset that they're rude? Yes, you do. You ought to call them on it. We're never called to be rude. We're always called to be servants. And I think even in those situations, there's a way that we can do things and do things well. Just a thought. You don't have to agree, but since you're watching it, chances are at least you listened, and that's all I can ask. And so until next time on Ask Jeff, you just load up the questions. Make sure when you email them to us, if it's a question that you want to specifically deal with here online, just put Ask Jeff in that subject line, and at least we'll know when it comes in what we're looking at and what we're getting ready to do. Okay? I look forward to joining you again, and we'll answer another question next time.